Are you sure you have great ideas? Huh? I said, are you sure you have great ideas? Yeah. Like, no, another one, please.
Yeah.
Okay, it is just about 6:05, and we're gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order. All right, we're gonna do that. Do I need to take attendance? Okay.
It'll be baking.
Okay, first on our agenda tonight, the annual volunteer recognition, and it looks like we have Daisy Hickman here to, tell us all about it. Welcome.
Good, Brandon.
It's fine. It says that it's, I think it's fine. Is it fine?
Just get it closer to you though. Kind of have to eat these microphones.
This is awful because
There you go.
everybody else tells me, in my life tells me, yep, that I got a big mouth. Madam Chair, committee members, thank you so much for having me. April is Volunteer Appreciation Month. And as we all know, the three pillars of Kaiser is pride, spirit, and volunteerism. Our city would not run without volunteers. And, we appreciate our volunteers every single day, but April is the month that we officially appreciate our volunteers. So the mayor has signed a proclamation. Whereas a basic ingredient in the foundation of the city of Kaiser is volunteerism. Upon incorporation in 1982, the motto was adopted: pride, spirit, and volunteerism. Almost every facet of this community is supported by volunteerism. And whereas many citizens of this community contribute to the well-being of fellow residents and the welfare of all of our citizens by giving tirelessly of their time and energy. And whereas many volunteers assist the city of Kaiser in performing a multitude of duties, often providing services that may be reduced or non-existent. Many of the volunteers serve in an advisory role to the city council on our boards, commissions, and task forces. And whereas it is ever more evident that our city's greatest resource is its people who are dedicated to the betterment of our community. And whereas the city of Kaiser values each and every one of the many volunteers and wish to extend our deepest appreciation to all. Now therefore, I, Kathy Clark of the city of Kaiser, hereby proclaim the month of April 2025 as Volunteer Recognition Month. You guys on this committee do a very special role. We have committees to provide services, and your committee is to ensure that those services serve all of our residents and serve all of our diverse needs, and it is really, really important. I am so very proud to have you guys, and I am so very proud of the very hard work that you have done, particularly recently. I know that it can be very difficult to sit up there, and the strength of character that you guys show is just really commendable and heartwarming, and I thank you very, very much. We also have certificates of appreciation for each of you. So if you don't mind, I'd like to approach and provide those. Thank you. Thank you. In, you can show heart and spirit. Really, really appreciate all of your work. I know, isn't that cool? Yeah. Like, I should put that over in my office. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Are you checking the names, Daisy? Or
No, I just realized I wasn't. I was counting on Dawn to not make me look silly. She's really good at not making me look silly.
Thank you.
And here, this, so you can do that. I've got Sarita's.
Okay.
Thank you so much because volunteering to fill a volunteer position is huge. It's,
I know that will.
right? Copy and paste, thank you. There, oh, and there.
Let's see, start my hand.
That's all right.
Oh, yeah, they can letters of that. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very, very much.
Thank you, Daisy.
Thank you.
And Tina.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much to Daisy. Okay, the next order of business is the approval of the minutes for March 2025.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written. I second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Discussion, is there a discussion? Any discussion? Okay, no discussion, moving on. We need to vote, thank you, thank you. So we're gonna go ahead and vote for the approval of the March minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, next up is appearance of interested persons. Do we have anybody wanting to give comment? Maybe next time, maybe next time. Okay. Oh, great, we have the committee member report by Tammy for the Greater Northeast, thank you.
In everybody's packet. It's in everybody's packet. I am not gonna waste our time reading it. Cause it's lengthy. I'm saver.
Any highlights? Cause you were,
The only highlight is city council has given us a task of keeping track of a bunch of information. And we kind of do that already with some charts. So inform, consult, involve, collaborate, empower. And then I have a comments tab. We don't often use that one, but we have. And then, public participation and promise to community. And then there's a couple of others, but I shared, part of our spreadsheet of our goals and objectives that we keep track of. Kind of just to give us an idea of different ways we can go about it. And then later in the packet, you'll see goals, accomplishments, priority level, and comments. I kind of think that one might be the best way for us to start tracking what we're doing and what we are working on. And that'll help when we talk to city council and give our reports and give us a great guide. Other than that, everything else is in front of you.
thank you, Tammy. That is really helpful, and that data sheet is also really helpful and obviously can be extended on if needed, but I can see that could be really helpful. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have the neighborhood association reports. Do we have anybody else giving one?
So I covered for Stephanie with Northwest Kaiser. They had Mid Valley Bank come in and
Hold
talk.
on.
Yep,
Hold on. Jane Lowry.
Jane Lowry. For fraud awareness, she gave me flyers for everybody. I handed those out. Other than that, I haven't had anything.
I would like to ask courtesy permission from the committee for me to be excused at 6:25 today so that I can attend my neighborhood committee meeting because it always conflicts with ours. And I'm not gonna stay there the whole time, but at least I'm going to introduce myself. And, I'll just be there for like 10 minutes or so, and then I'll come back here.
I like it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm.
Could I just give a quick report on the Northwest also? In the Kaiser Times this week, you're gonna see a picture of a student wiping out graffiti. So you know that we started this program a few months ago, and the students are just embracing it, and there's another volunteer organization at McNary that is also helping. So all of the graffiti is now, even though it goes through Ben, it's actually going to Hirsch, who's the president of that association. He is working with the school and reports it, and then we find our days. In fact, we're getting ready to do another day. I'll let you know when that is. That we're gonna bring all the students out, and they've already had their training, so they're ready to go. So if you see it, take a picture. We need it, okay? We want to wipe it out as soon as it comes on.
Oh, I actually didn't know about that. That is so cool. I'm so glad that Kaiser's doing that. Really
Yeah,
good
so
work.
they're working with, is
ROTC.
it Ben?
So we're working with Ben and Junior ROTC. This is how the program started. And then another young man came to our association meeting, I don't know, about 3 months ago, and wanted to know what he could do. And he had a group of people in a different group of students. So these are the McNary students you're gonna see out there cleaning up graffiti. Amazing. I'm so proud that they're taking care of our city, because we need to take care of our city. Thank you.
Thank you, yeah. Anybody else before we move on?
Well, there's nothing on the agenda about us reporting. Oh, sorry. There's nothing on the agenda about us reporting, from our visit to the different, volunteer committees. And so is that okay if I give a short report?
Sure.
Okay, I attended the last, volunteer, the BCC, what's it called, volunteer committee meeting, back in March. And, I was really impressed with, how that committee functions. So what the main event of that committee meeting that happened in March, and I didn't write anything down, is various, members of the community applied to be on some of the volunteer committees. And, I just really liked how the VCC approached that, method. And, so for each volunteer, so for each committee, like parks or traffic, they interviewed the people that wanted to participate in that, committee. And, then they vote, on the person that they choose. I think there was one committee, and I think it was a budget one, that had several people that wanted to be on that committee. And during that meeting time, they did not select someone, so.
I think they did, didn't they, Don?
Yes, it was Bruce Anderson, so he was nominated.
Oh, there was one there was several. That's right, yeah, I remember that.
I think it was like a 3-2-1 vote or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's right,
Pretty
yeah,
close.
yeah, but, yeah, so it was really interesting, so I texted, Jane earlier today, and, I would like to revisit how our committee members are selected. I know that at one time it was mentioned, but I would like to revisit, that, and the opportunity to be considered in the same manner that the other committee members are selected. And, I welcome anything from Tim or whoever can tell me whether that's a possibility.
I wasn't on city council when they made the decision how to do it, so. Tim, you would know.
Well, I guess that kind of plays into one of the agenda items later on. The city council did pass a new resolution.
Yeah.
Outlining how the committee is formed and the process. So we can touch on it now, or we can hold off until then. And we're limited in what that process is, so we're still going through the counselor appointment process. So each counselor, it's up to them to determine how they want to get members of this committee.
Okay, thanks, Tim. I will work on some of my ideas and I will put it in writing and bring it to our committee to review for our next meeting. And then, you can give me your, opinion about, how we can approach that.
Sure, definitely.
I do know at our last work session, each member of council voted to keep that with them so that they could do the appointment process.
I know that, but I would like to revisit that decision. And I just wonder whether it can be done and how it can be done. So, my first intent is to, go over the questionnaire, and I will also bring back to us some steps that, we can take as a group, and then also involve the, volunteer, committee for them to, because I know that they were involved the last time, and, they did not want to be involved, but there are new members in that committee. And when I visited with them last time that I was there, at least some of them were open to, reviewing that. So I want to take that opportunity for us to, revisit that.
Marlene, are there any suggestions from your point of view on how we can start moving to that direction?
Well, like I said, that decision was made before I came on in January, and so, the VCC, they're the ones that said they didn't want to do that at this time. I think maybe they think it's too, I don't know, controversial or hard. I'm not sure what the answer is to that. I don't know. And yes, there are new members now. And as far as appointing people, that's a difficult thing, having us do that, because to me, it's just very difficult. I mean, I personally would want the BCC to do this. I personally, but I cannot speak for them.
Thank you, Marlene. I was approached by some of the VCC members, and, they voiced the same thing that, you have just shared with me. And so I think that, you know, it's just different now. So I think that it's not gonna hurt to, revisit, that topic. Okay.
I'm gonna go and I'll be back. Okay, enjoy. Good discussion. Thank you for sharing your perspective, Marlene. That is helpful. I want to quickly, because I forgot, I had asked Dawn about a land acknowledgement and she gave it to me, and then I didn't read it at the top of the meeting. So if it's okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Okay, thank you. We are gathered on the land of the Kalapuya Confederate Tribes of the Grand Ronde, the Confederate Tribes of the Silts Indians, and the, oh, excuse me, I'm not sure how to pronounce this tribe. I'm so sorry, I'm butchering this right now. Anchuku, whose relationship with this land continues to this day. We offer gratitude for the land itself and for those who have lived on it for generations. We acknowledge that our city's history, like many others, is fundamentally tied to the first colonial developments in Oregon. Finally, we respectfully acknowledge and honor past, present, and future Indigenous citizens of Kaiser. With a genuine desire for collective healing and understanding, we offer this land acknowledgement to respectfully recognize the land and its Indigenous people. The acknowledgement recognizes that lasting progress begins and continues with a growing understanding of harms and works to challenge the legacies of colonialism in order to move forward in the true spirit of community. Thank you for your patience, and I will
Thank you,
practice.
I had never seen it before, so my apologies. Okay. Wonderful. Moving on, to other.
Hunted.
Hunter shop. Thank you. I
Yes,
appreciate
that's
that.
what I meant.
Okay. Okay, we'll practice that. I appreciate that. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to our discussion, and look at the 2025 Kaiser events. We had wanted a list, of annual events and then any new events happening this year so that we can just, sort of assess and give feedback if we see areas where we can, bridge that gap for the folks in Kaiser. So, okay. So these are the ones that I found just with a pretty quick internet search. So I'm wondering if anybody knows of any other events that are annual or new events that are being put on.
Where's
It's
that?
on the last page, if you turn
That's right.
over.
Very 23.
Oh, I,
Okay, so after this,
okay.
turn the page.
No.
Prior.
Yep.
So I know each neighborhood family council does events, but I don't have an event date list yet. I was hoping Chris would make it from Cummings. She would have been able to give us a little bit of a preview of some of the ones she's got coming up for Cummings.
And
then
that's
that
the neighborhood.
poses a question.
Okay.
If we have these events, city council wants us to create a brochure or a card with our info. Do we have an idea of what we want to include in that? Our mission, obvious, our name, mission, how to contact the city. But what else would we want to have on that for info to display at these events? Because Kaiser gets a table for Kaiser Fest. I don't know, summer concerts.
I think we can,
so.
we can visit that once, let's go like step at a time.
Yeah.
Like identify what are some of the events that we wanna participate, and I think that creating that, it's not gonna be, that would take us to the next step of what we can do.
Yeah, so let's put a pin on that because I know city council did ask for that and I think it's a great idea. So let's put a pin in that and come back to it. So, okay, so the events that I have listed here, Kaiser Fest, the Riverwalk Art Show. I wasn't sure if we were doing summer concerts this year.
Yeah.
We are, oh, fabulous. And then street art, but that I don't. That's kind of separate because that's still an ongoing process there. So essentially Kaiser Fest, Riverwalk, and then the summer concerts.
I know the library has several events planned. I don't know the list. You could contact the library for that. We have some plays with but I don't know what part of that. Is that the cultural center?
The theater,
or-
yeah. So you need to go through, but if you go to, over there to the cultural center, they can kind of tell you what plays are coming up for the theater. But the fire department will also have probably, I don't know if they're having a Mother's Day breakfast, but they'll have breakfast. Obviously, they do that twice a year. But the chamber is a good, place to start because they really know everything.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that we should keep our list to like the really big major events. Because there's so many small events, that could, I think, be very long for us to assess. So if there are any other like large annual events, yes, Jen.
One thing to keep in mind, some of these events, we're a sponsor only in name necessarily. We don't really have any interaction with the planning of the event itself. So say the concert in the park, this year it's entirely direct, they're putting it all on. Our only real participation is letting them know how to amphitheater for free.
Yeah.
A couple of things that you may want to add to the list, if you're looking at things that the city itself controls. There's Public Works Day, that might be an opportunity. There's a lot of families and kids that come through. Be a good way to kind of get our name out to that crowd.
Do you have a
I've
date
also
on that one?
worked on an engagement plan of how do we want to engage more people so that, you know, that event happens.
Good idea.
What, do you know what month that is? It's like in
It's
September.
in
Public Works?
June, I believe,
It's when?
June.
Oh, it's June.
Okay.
So it's gonna sneak up on us really fast, so that, we might not be able to have a lot of input this year, but at least we could start the process of how to engage better in the future. And there's also Soggy Day in the Park, which is similar to kind of a Public Works Day. We have a fair amount of involvement as we bring out some of the big toys, the Public Works group gets to play with. So that would be another one. The City Hall cleanup, and that's also another event that's primarily, I guess it's a city event, but it really doesn't impact the city itself here.
And it's volunteers, yes.
So those were a couple that I thought about, adding to the list. Kaiser Fest, again, that's really put on by the chamber. So our participation is really limited to a table, if we choose to staff one there. So there's a few things, and that would be the same with the Riverwalk art show as well.
And, Christmas lights.
Oh, yeah, Christmas lights.
Again, that's the chamber.
What cups
Where's the
are?
party?
Well, the lights, that's Gubser, yeah, the city,
Holiday lights?
but that's between the food bank and the Gubser, isn't that right?
That's
Or
right.
the city's not involved in that, or are we?
We're very limited,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
and other than issuing a permit, we're getting farther and farther away from it. We just staffed it a couple nights, so that's always fun.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that we really should, keep our scope specifically to city, organized events, right? If we needed to expand, and if we really had, I think, you know, a suggestion for maybe one of these other ones, absolutely, you know, we can always offer that, but I think our scope should remain city focused.
And I think our scope is also not really it's not necessarily to organize, but how can we contribute so that we can welcome, or we can start having that conversation of engagement and volunteerism for the city of Kaiser. So showing up, it could be a way to start doing that.
Having a booth, Kaiser Fest
Yeah.
would be one way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Can really, a lot of people come through there,
Yeah,
a lot of
From
people.
everywhere. The neighborhood associations did it 2 years ago. It was an awesome experience.
And I think, part of the report that you had, Tammy, was that, lack of information on when meetings are happening, where they're happening, locations, all of that, right? So I think exposure for us, for this committee, to be part, tabling, booth, anywhere. It doesn't, I mean, I think volunteering in any of them would be great, just to get the word out and inform of how to participate, how to show up, when to show up. If we have a list of meetings, when those meetings happen, I think it's great, just to be welcoming everyone. I think it'll encourage, and if we can do it in multiple language, even better, but even if we have just one, I think it's a start. Just so that we can start with that engagement and offering more information than what, another avenue of information than what we currently have. And I know that they're posted in the website, but not everyone goes into the website. So other forms of methods that we can communicate information would be amazing, or just having a conversation. Who we are, what we do, and I think just, being present can actually, be more impactful, in the community.
This question is for Tim. Tim, does this committee have any sort of budget to do to do cards or brochures or anything like that?
That's, at this point, no.
Okay.
However, once we get, I think the council is really looking for this group to put together some action plans. And
Yeah.
when we get those plans together, we're gonna need to cost them out so that we can get the budget dollars to make the things happen.
Okay,
So I've been hesitant to just blindly allocate money until we figure out how we really want
oh,
to.
we need to do it this budget cycle, so this is a sooner than later thing, right? Okay. Thank you.
And I'm wondering if your mind was going where my mind was, that we would have brochures at these city events. And it would be a good way for folks to give feedback about the events, right? Like, come to our committee meeting, let's talk about the event. And, that's one way that we can, really get that true feedback. So, looking forward to that. So we're gonna go ahead and stick with the city events for us to participate in, engage with, and then give feedback and recommendations. Does that sound okay?
And the list, the final list, we don't have a final list, right? At this point, we're working on getting there.
So at this point, it sounds like it would be the Public Works event, which is in June. Is it the Soggy Day?
Yeah, Soggy
in the
Day.
park.
Soggy Day in the Park. And the City Hall event.
Yeah, the civic center cleanup, we
Yeah,
just.
that's right, we just had that.
Yeah,
Okay.
but don't we do that twice a year?
No.
Once?
Just once.
Oh,
Maybe we should do it then.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, so it sounds like we have 3 city events, which is, I think, good because it's manageable, right? Like, we don't want to overload our work. And,
With the potential of, tabling at the Kaiser Fest, right?
yeah, I like that idea. Okay, perfect. So we have 3 city events with the potential of tabling.
Even if we don't table all the entire day, like how we participate and be part of that,
Yeah,
partner up with another.
yeah. Good idea. Great, okay, thank you. I'm sorry, do we need a vote on moving forward? To the next, okay, thank you. So the next, discussion is going to be the CDEC event / decision assessment questionnaire. I have been, getting some feedback on the questionnaire, and I definitely think it needs to be expanded on, and revised a bit. And so I would say this tool, it could really be it could be ongoing, in terms of like updating or editing, but I am curious if this could be a tool that would help the CDEC at least, and potentially other, city committees. So, first question, what do we even think about having, a questionnaire to help guide us? And then the next question would be, just looking this over right off the bat, do you see any updates that you would make? Things of that nature.
We sent you my feedback.
Would you mind sharing it?
So I shared this with a couple of students from McNary. And some of the concerns was not everything we do is actively engaging. Some of it does not meet accessibility options. And they used Kaiser's 40th birthday as the example. We had people getting stuck out here in the grass for Kaiser's 40th with wheelchairs and strollers. So any events, we need to make sure that we're definitely ADA accessible with everything, even if that means we need to get like I don't know, they have these puzzle pieces at the beach sometimes, so people can get down to the water. Is the first thing that came to mind. But also making sure we've had hearing impaired families attending our meetings. So we want to make sure we can meet those needs as well. We want to make sure we're being bilingual if that need arises, or having somebody on standby that can translate. Or just a couple.
So is your opinion though, that you do think having a questionnaire at least?
I think it's a great guide to help us make sure we are not creating barriers where there are barriers. And it gives us a chance to remove barriers that might be there.
Any other thoughts? I would like to, update this to include need to add a comment section, and I would also say, how was it achieved? So instead of just saying, yes, the event or decision actively engaged folks, well, how was that actually achieved? Just so that we could make sure that it's actionable and reasonable, actions that are being taken. But, if we even need this, is really the first question. Yes, Stephanie?
So are we recommending this to the city to use as part of the guidelines when they're setting up the different happenings or events? To use as a guideline to make sure we have everything that we should? Or is this an after the fact checklist or, questionnaire? Or maybe it's both? That was my question.
I would
That's,
use this at Kaiser Fest at your booth and have people fill it out right there.
okay.
I mean, you're gonna interact with more people and all people, okay, because everybody goes to Kaiser Fest, so I think, in my opinion, I mean, this is pretty good, and then the comment would just be, if no, why, or if yes, why, or something like that under each question, but you don't wanna make it too long, because then people won't do it, right? So it's just, and this is pretty specific, so that would be my recommendation, is you print a whole bunch of these up, and we have them for Kaiser Fest at the booth, and you get people, draw them in, and this is how you talk to them.
Love that, interesting.
And we would have to have different languages.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it needs to be shorter.
Yeah.
If that's what we're gonna do, like 3 questions back.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Oh, I agree.
Well, it would have to be tailored, like, so this to me, when I was reading it, this is more like prior to making an event. Are we checking the boxes to make sure that it is meeting what we want? Is it a diverse event? Does it meet the requirements, right? And I think for the people, it would be a lot shorter. We can do a QR code, not that hard, something that is simple, right?
Yeah.
So it would change. I think the audience is a little bit different, so the audience feedback is, where did you hear about this? Because a lot of the times, diverse communities or underserved communities don't see the advertisements, or they don't understand the advertisement. So where did we miss it? Did we advertise enough? So for the 40th, for example, that you brought that one, Hispanic community said, I never saw anything about it. I didn't hear about it. We didn't advertise in the right location, right? We didn't promote in the right
Well,
location.
that's what I'm saying is at Kaiser Fest, because Kaiser Fest, everybody comes to Kaiser Fest, okay? So, I mean, that's where you can start, right? And then I think from there, you would know then how to reach out after that point.
And changing the questions, right?
Yeah.
The questions right now,
Yeah, make them-
so it's more tailored to who's the audience. If the audience is the community, then those questions are gonna look a little bit different.
Okay.
This to me sounds more like planning.
Yeah.
Great, yeah.
Green,
I understand that. Yeah, okay. So the questionnaire then, that we are going to be using is going to be for community use at events.
Then that's a great, first, project that we can work on.
Yeah.
How does that work? And facilitated QR, so the first event that we attend, let's run it and see how it works.
Yeah. Great. So, how
Look at
many
it when we
questions?
sing.
I
Look at
know. I know, so efficient. So I'm wondering how many questions, would you advise? Because I did actually create a much simpler,
It needs to be simple, like she said.
so yeah, I
I
think that it
think
was
no more
like
than
one
three.
sentence for each.
Yeah, I think
Question,
no more
so-
than three,
Okay,
because during Kaiser Fest, kids are pulling parents every direction.
so then we're going to have to make sure that each question is pretty intentional.
Yes.
Because we're, we want pretty specific information.
That's what you're looking for, right? 'Cause so you know how them to engage, right?
Yes,
Right.
so,
Not only intentional, but I think like you mentioned, like printing them at the booth or having them wherever, but also have a QR, someone that can scan. And can we count how many were scanned? Even if they don't fill them out, we know that's how many people we connected or engaged with. So that way we know next time, which, is it paper that we go? We can always do both, right? So that's part of the role, but which one is the way to go? Which one are we really, is gravitating? So not only for us, but for the rest of the, other, groups. So that way we can inform them. In the future, if you're advertising something or you want feedback, this is how the best way to get feedback.
yes, that is fabulous. That's exactly right, for sure.
Well, and I think then, and then we can do the same thing for Public Works and tweak it after we get the results.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kaiser Fest.
It's a great way to get the data, that really we need to
That's what
make
we want to
anything
see,
about.
but that's what we want to see.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm excited about that. So we're gonna go ahead and do 3 questions, intentional questions. So my next question, how can we get that? Should it be,
Can we share it with Dawn and then have it shared with all of us and then put it back?
what would be the most efficient way, I guess, if we're trying to edit a list or like edit or create a list?
Well, we're kind of limited by public meeting laws, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, we gotta
So
go
we,
through them.
we can't have, a chain email floating around with everyone thing.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, most of our business has to be conducted here.
Okay,
You can break off and have smaller groups as long as you don't have a quorum of members. I'm working on something, but that quorum can't go and talk to the other members until you actually come to the meeting and talk about it. So it's kind of a challenge, to be honest, as
It's a
far as,
big challenge.
yeah.
Can we bring suggestions? What I mean, like to Dawn is like, we bring a suggestion, we're like, hey, here's a list, we're creating lists. And then at the meeting, we start cutting down that list.
Yeah, you know, that's totally.
That's the route that I was talking about. I apologize if I missed.
That would be
Well,
totally
and keep
acceptable.
in mind, Kaiser Fest is in
It's coming right up.
so we're gonna want. On us.
So, May 15th through the 18th is Kaiser Fest. If that's our goal, then we have to create that within the next week. Get it to Dawn, Dawn has to get it out, and then we immediately, within the next couple of days, have to get back to her, so it gets.
No, no, because we have to meet here again, is what we're saying. I thought.
When's your next meeting in May? When is it? It's
The first Thursday
Okay,
of
so
May.
that gives you time to get everything ready, then you can vote on it and say, this is what we
Yeah, but it
want.
has to go through city council before we do anything. Right?
My thought would, I would tend to think yes, because we're an advisory group to the council. So this would be putting together some engagements.
Okay, so if it's the first Thursday in May, then the first Monday in May, we have city council right after that. Oh, that's a budget though, right?
Lots of fun.
Give me some, please.
I was pulling up my calendar
I'm
earlier.
already tired.
I'll just get budget this year, that's fine.
It's Priorities.
Our meeting will be May first, and then the city council will be meeting on May fifth.
There you go.
Oh, see.
Yeah, we
April.
we
You can
could,
pull it off if you wanna pull it off, I can pull it off.
so I mean, I appreciate the excitement for the group, but this may be something that we need to develop, and think of long term, so maybe not this Kaiser Fest, but maybe the Kaiser Fest after that, or Public Works Day.
But you for Public Works Day, that's next.
Yeah. Yeah, that's.
That's
enough.
June,
Give
yeah.
us enough.
That'll give us
Parade, and-
a couple of,
I think you folks would rather have something polished to move forward with rather than I'm having to rush through something. I think you'll be much more happier with the end result. Just from my standpoint, I don't really get a vote in it, but I think one of the questions are, if I were to be there and I would ask, how do you want to receive information from the city? And then have a list of email, Facebook, whatever, next door, all the different avenues. And compile that and say, oh, wow, look at everyone wants to get it off of, I know what they're saying this. That'll be fun.
it's funny you say that, Tim, because that's one of the questions I ask all the time. Because everybody's so different.
And how, and that question, Tim, we don't have to get it approved at all?
I think the intent, if I understand the council correctly, is they wanted us to put an action plan together with supporting things like the rack cards, questionnaires, those kind of things, and then advise the council and say, hey, here you go, here's the tools, give us some feedback. But I think it would probably also be good to get some city staff feedback as well once we're in the process. So unfortunately, I appreciate the energy and the wanting to move forward fast. I'm just not sure how realistic that necessarily is.
Okay, yeah, I will say I did get 2 action plans sent over late to Dawn, so unfortunately we couldn't go over it today, but they are action plans for community engagement and youth engagement, which I believe were the 2 areas that were asked that we created an action plan for, so that will be discussed at our next meeting. My apologies for not getting that, sooner.
It is how you're going.
Yeah.
Too much stuff.
A lot of stuff, but we'll know for next time. So back to the questionnaire. So what I'm hearing is you feel like realistically this should be something that we table. The other option,
I think the tabling was more for the next event, for the.
Yeah, the tabling's for the next event.
We can continue with it, but we wouldn't be able, with Tim, if I'm understanding you correctly, Tim, you're saying not for the fest.
I think that'd be a very tight deadline to try to meet.
But, yeah, for the future, for June, yes, but like for May, it's a stretch.
I would definitely not table it, because I think it's a great path to start going down. It just, we need to make sure that we take our time and get to where we want to be happy with everything.
yeah, that's understandable. So with that being said, we still want to continue, right, to create a questionnaire. Do you feel like it's completely out of the question to have one at Kaiser Fest?
Anything's possible. I do like your plan of, if you have questions, route them to Dawn and myself, and then we can at least have them packaged, ready for discussion at the next, at our next meeting.
Yeah, I think it's just because we would get so much data from Kaiser Fest, so I think that's why I'm really kind of wanting to push that a little bit. I just generated a new questionnaire with our friend ChatGPT, unfortunately. With 3 questions. 1, how are underrepresented or diverse communities engaged in this event or decision? The options included actively included, minimally involved, with some, like involved in planning, ask for input, physical leadership roles. The 3rd option, not included or no outreach conducted, or unsure. The 2nd question, what impact does this event or decision have on advancing equity or representation in Kaiser? Strong positive impact, empowers diverse voices, addresses disparities, supports long-term change. Moderate impact, some benefits, but not central. Little or no impact, negative or exclusionary effect, unsure, space for comment. And then the 3rd question, is this event or decision accessible and welcoming to all community members? Yes, accessible across income, language, ability, and cultural differences. Partially accessible, some known barriers remain. 3rd, no significant access issues or barriers. Last is unsure. So
Now, see, I
That's
like
kind of
that
my
one to
Hail
ask
Mary
that
to-
questionnaire, but I don't know if it
yeah,
fits what we're.
so.
Yeah, I think that needs to be a little bit more simple
Mhm.
and plain language for everybody to understand.
That makes sense.
It's a great start to.
And I think for the fest, for the first couple, I think it would be best to know, identify where they hear the information from, so that way we know, and how would they like to get communication being sent to them, so we need to have an avenue. What is the avenue so that we can start sending additional questionnaires that are gonna be more impactful, right? If we don't have that original or the first data, that's gonna be tougher to continue the work.
Yeah.
So the first one, it might be a little more simple.
Yeah.
Less wordy.
Yeah.
And if we can't get it ready for Kaiser Fest, we could still ask those 2 questions that were asked. And then we could track how many people answered.
Yeah.
Which way.
That's great, yeah, and we can still get the data, so. So we can, work on those 3 questions, send them to Dawn, and then we can discuss them at the next, meeting. Okay,
We have just the resolutions. Kathy's on her way, but I have to go.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, I just see you just have the staff liaison report, and do you need anything from me?
so anyone,
You good? All right,
thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for coming.
of course.
Have a good night.
You guys too.
Okay, moving on to your last agenda item. The resolution for amending the Community Diversity Engagement Committee. Let's see, a staff report. Yeah.
Definitely. So at the March 17th meeting, which just happened, the city council adopted a new resolution for the Community Diversity Engagement Committee. This is kind of based off of the back and forth that we've had for a couple, I guess, months now. At the March 3rd meeting, the city council requested that this group come back, look at the resolution, make some recommendations. We brought those back to this March 17th meeting. They adopted some of the changes, didn't adopt some of the other ones. And so a lot of just the language kind of things. And so we wanted to add the reference to the resolution to the values, justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And they were fine with that. They added that in. Include identification, elimination, barriers, participation. They added something similar to that in. Intentionally seeking out underrepresented, they added something similar to that in. They didn't accept our recommendation for the appointment process. They decided to go their own direction. The city councilors are going to continue to make a direct appointment based off of whatever criteria they choose. However, they did indicate that they were open to the questionnaire checklist that was provided. So it's not going to be required, but maybe something that they use as they work through their process. They didn't accept our recommendation of 3-year terms. It's gonna be a 2-year term that aligns with the city councilors, 2-year, appointment period. They did accept our recommendation to retain a voting youth liaison, so I think that is good. The youth liaison is actually gonna go through the VCC now, the Volunteer Coordinating Committee. And then once that committee does their recommendation to the council, then the council will appoint the person through that process. So they did make a few of the changes that we recommended. However, they decided to go a different direction on a few of the other ones. So if we move to page, it looks like page 29 of the packet. This is the appendix A for the committee. They did make a few changes here. They took out the tasks and put everything under purpose now. So we have a list of 5 different things that they want this group to handle, although 4 has a long list of other things underneath it. So those are the areas that really the city council says, okay, CDEC, we want you to put together an action plan. And how are we gonna accomplish these things? So I think that was really the big conversation that they were having, what do we want the committee to do? So I would encourage people to look through that. I was just kind of brainstorming and wondering if maybe we take these action items, turn them into our standing agenda. So then whenever we bring things forward, we can say, okay, this falls under this item, so we know exactly what we're trying to accomplish as far as the task goes. But that's your folks' decision, you can ponder that and we can make a decision in the future when we so choose. But yeah, really the big push was to come up with an action plan. Also, number 5, I thought was kind of interesting. They wanted us to work on developing promotional materials. They were talking about some of this, like a rack card where you can put your flyers out, that kind of thing. So once we get going with an action plan, we can include the rack cards and however else we want to break that out. So.
Well, I guess my question is about the rack cards. Is it for the whole city or is it just for the community?
My understanding is for the city.
Yeah, those, I mean, we can make those, really no problem. We would just need to know like specifically what information, was needed to be on those. I would be super open for sure to creating one, I think, for our, committee, so we can definitely look into that.
I know Parks would be on board for creating one. Lisa and I have had that conversation.
So we are super grateful that, we're able to have our youth member vote, which was really exciting. I think going back to your comment, earlier about how the BCC should be the one to appoint the CDEC.
Well, not appoint,
Well-
but at least recommend.
Right, and so they, our voting team liaison is being elected by the BCC. So we are the only committee that is selected in a different way.
Correct.
So just something that I thought was interesting that we might bring to the table if we do continue that conversation with the, council. Does anyone have any other comments about?
Doesn't BCC or Don, doesn't BCC appoint all the youth now?
I believe so, yes. I think that's the process.
So that is not gonna fall on Mayor Clark anymore? She's gonna appoint an adult?
That is correct.
Okay.
And Tim, I really like your suggestion about the action plan.
I do too.
Following that,
That would really
Sure.
great, yeah.
So I think if we change the agenda, I can bring an example at the next meeting. We can start off from there and then we can go just line by line and say, okay, as far as an action plan goes, how do we want to do this?
Yeah.
That might help to corral the discussion.
Absolutely.
That's some good ideas. You know what you're doing over there.
Mm-hmm.
All the time.
Yeah.
We depend on,
Yes, we do.
And that was all I was intending by bringing this as part of the staff report, just to prime it up to say, okay, changes to the resolution have been made. I would encourage each of you to read through it before our next meeting, and then we can start putting some action items to it.
Okay.
I think that'd be great.
Thank you.
And just so we're clear, Dawn, you need all of our suggestions 1 week prior to this meeting, like, that would be preferred, that'd be helpful.
2 weeks.
Two
That way,
Okay.
there's time to review the packet.
Okay, so the expectation then is we review the appendix. And we also give suggestions for the questionnaire 2 weeks prior to the next meeting.
But I think the question, well, the long-term questionnaire, the one that we're trying to, the small one, the short one for, cover your ears, Tim, for Kaiser. For Kaiser Fest, that is just like as simple,
Yeah,
how do we communicate best, how we can best communicate, or what language maybe you
Okay.
prefer, and where did you hear? Okay, so that way we like if we have those three,
Yeah.
then we can have like, that will give us an avenue of where do we need to communicate? What are the populations that are not getting the information? And what languages are mainly needed when we provide that information? So that way, when we focus on the next questionnaires or the future questionnaires, then we can be more centered and focused on how we can get those out.
yes, thank you. You said that earlier, really, and thank you for
Yes,
reminding me.
that was
So-
brilliant. So I just want to review. The first question is, how do you want to receive the information? We like that one?
Well, I don't know if it matters which direction, but to me, it's like just more the connection, how are we gonna make that connection?
Right, because that tells us, how do they want to receive that
What avenue?
information? And then the next one, which you just said, where did you hear the information? I really like that because that also kind of reverts back to the first one. What was the best way to get in touch with you? And then the third one, if we keep it really simple, is language preferred.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That gives us all three really quick, simple,
Yeah,
and gives us our first data point.
okay, so 2 weeks prior, we will get,
Oh, but that one has to be like,
That one, yeah.
oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
ASAP, so that way.
Dawn, you got that? Tim, you
Tim?
If it's cuckoo bananas, let us know and, you know, we can always
And I
change the next.
It was just,
Yeah.
well, it was just about like, how do we, add it to the May 1st, you said, meeting?
Oh, the-
Yay.
May 1st is the next CEC meeting, so
And it would go to city council, you said the fifth, right?
On the 7th?
Or seventh?
that would be May 5th.
Okay, so we're gonna have that one in a staff.
We can always do that when we do a report for city council as a way of informing this is what we've come up with. Because that was one of the things that the city council said is they wanted us to start reporting to city council too. So that's one way to help break that.
Yeah, I don't think it would be probably before, but yeah, I think that's a suggestion for sure. Okay.
Yes, Tim.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Tim.
So I didn't have anything else on the resolution, but I did include a draft resolution the city council is going to be looking at the next meeting on the commemorative heritage months. We've done a lot of work here making recommendations. We presented those recommendations one go around. They wanted to make some changes, but this is the draft of what's going to go at the next city council meeting. So you can see kind of how they've outlined it. Basically, we've broken it into two pieces now. There'll be those that we do formal proclamations for at the city council meetings. Then there'll be others that we acknowledge, but not necessarily during the council meeting. So once this gets approved, then we can backfill into all the presentations and that kind of thing once everything's been approved. And that's all I had on that. A couple other city updates as far as engagement with the community goes. We are going to be working over probably the next 6 months on a new website. So I think there'll be some opportunities for this group to provide some input into that process as well. And we're also working on scheduling some town halls. And we have a handful of topics that we want to solicit input from the community on. So depending on the timing of that and our meetings, we'll have some involvement there hopefully.
When do we get that list, Tim?
Once it gets approved by the council, we're still working on the dates, so. Yeah, it's gonna be fun, lots of fun. I think the first town hall is basically just gonna be an open listening session. So open mic, so if you wanna come and do some karaoke, it would be great. Not necessarily specific to engagement, but we're also looking at changing our online bill pay provider. So that is one avenue of how we interact with our customers, residents here in Kaiser. So those are the main things as far as engaging with the community code that I'm aware of that we're working on internally. And we'll, like I say, we'll bring this group in hopefully at the right moment. So that's all I have.
Thank you, that was actually great information. Thank you for sharing. We, now, then going over, the national observances. I think that's you.
Provided.
Right, okay.
That was just for your information. Again, they'll be talking about it at the next council meeting, so if you want to provide input, you can there, and otherwise, and that's hopefully what they're gonna approve, I hope.
The acknowledgements is where Constitution Week falls now.
So this doesn't necessarily outline when it's specific on the agenda. This is just.
But they're not gonna come in and do their normal anymore?
I have to look at the list. I think you're correct.
Teachers are gonna be really nervous.
Or you, like I said, they're discussing it at the next meeting, so if you feel compelled, you can provide public testimony.
Yeah. I've got a meeting with 2 principals already.
Are you in trouble? Kidding, just kidding.
Okay. Does anybody have any other discussion, any other comments they'd like to make?
So does everybody have the community sheet in their binder that says that community organizations within Kaiser? No, I didn't see that.
Can you repeat the question?
The organizations, we at one point picked organizations and groups that operate in Kaiser. At one point, yep, that one, we signed up to participate
Yeah.
in some of those. I think it's time to revisit that because we are not doing that.
We are not, because I think that's what we are trying to do. What is the objective and kind of, figure out what is our role here. And I think part of it is that participation that we're trying to engage. So that was when I first came on board, that was a suggestion of engaging community. But we have not being successful at engaging that way, so we're looking at what other avenues. We can definitely revisit if you feel like strongly we should be attending, those business.
I think it's important, and here's why. I think it's important that we attend some of these meetings so that we can bring that information back to this group. And when I engage in some of these, one of the first things I say is, how can we serve you better? How can we engage with this part of your business better? Most of them have no idea what we do or why I'm even there. Other than, I've been doing it for so long now, they know that I'm gonna show up. And one of the things that I've learned with doing it is it provides an opportunity for them to say, here's some of the things that we're dealing with. Like ADA access, I dealt with one at a group. How do we be ADA compliant with somebody hearing impaired? That allowed me to share a resource for that. Because it's something they haven't had to deal with. It's a smaller committee group and they haven't had to deal with that. We've got new people who attend our group and new people who are attending city council that are overcoming barriers. So it helps us learn where we can help engage to break down some of the extra barriers we may come across. LGBTQ community feels like they don't have a voice at all. And Carrie engages with some of them quite frequently. Jackie and I have just started engaging with a couple of different groups. And they tell me all the time, I don't feel welcome. How do we fix that? We get involved and we fix it, one step at a time. So it's different ways that we can each bring something new to the table. Do I want us to take on this whole entire list? No, because that's unrealistic. We all have a neighborhood association we can attend. We all have different things that we do without being asked, without even thinking about it. Carrie is very involved in different communities in Salem. I typically stick to Scouts because I developed a big passion for that because of the Berta Lane project. And then the school board meetings, off and on, when they don't get annoying.
So what I'm hearing is, we think that it is important to attend those other city committee meetings so that we can bring that knowledge back to this committee, share it. So the hope would be then to start identifying and filling those gaps.
Yep.
Yeah. So then maybe we could say the expectation for our next meeting would be to attend either a neighborhood association and or the city committee that we had initially been assigned to. Now, if that's too, like, if that expectation is too much, that's understandable.
Mhm.
But I think we could at least, the expectation would be to at least try.
Right, and I did have Dawn send me a copy of one and adjusted the ones that I attend on a regular basis. And Dawn, if you can just send that to everybody, if you didn't already, that'd be great. Just to kind of let everybody know these are the ones I'm at. And if somebody is interested in one and I'm available, I don't mind stepping up and taking it on. Just to give us a voice and a presence for whatever it is.
I agree.
Because it's important.
Yeah. It is. Okay, well, if we don't have any further discussion, the meeting is adjourned. The time is, 7:19. Good information.
Yeah, I wrote that out.
And we got an award, but it's so fun. Thanks, Tim, for all your suggestions. Yeah.
Tim was on fire today. Like, let me tell you how to stay organized.
I appreciate this group because there's so much energy all the time. Yeah. I'm not surprised. I think I'm not surprised when I do stuff to kind of. Sorry, you're on the panic attack.
He's like, not for this one, not for Kaiser Fest, and we're like, how about Kaiser Fest? And he's like, not for Kaiser Fest, what? Kaiser Fest? It was hilarious, yeah, I mean.
Really one type.
Yes, yes, how about if we skip this Kaiser Fest? And the next one, and we're like, what about really, like,
2 years.
Yeah.
how soon do you need it, we can make it happen. Right.
That's all I got.
Yeah.
Really nice. Okay, restaurant.
Bye.
Great. Later. I think the monkey down. Yeah, no.